Hello everyone and welcome back. Let's quickly learn about enums in Java, what enumeration or enums are in Java and why we use them, right? So enums is short for enumeration. It's a special type in Java. The same way we have classes that we can create our special type or use a defined type, we can use enumeration to create a special type that represent fixed set of constant values. In other words, enums are a way that we can group a set of constant values under a single name, okay? And instead of using random numbers or a string, so enums, we use it for type safety, readability, and compile time checking. And same as class, enums can provide us some built-in features like we can have methods inside the enums, the constructors, etc. So enum is basically a type like classes in Java. We use it to group set of constant values. Oh, okay, nothing else. Set of constant values. Whenever our values are closed set of predefined values, for that we can use enums. For example, days of the week are set of predefined closed values, right? We can have only 7 values for the days of the week. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Fridays, nothing else, Thursday, right? These are set of constant and close values. So when we have these type of situations, so it is recommended to use enums for that because it's going to give us type safety. What I mean by type safety, for example, say I want to store days of the week. Let's say if I use a string, let's say call a day equal to maybe Sunday, right? So a string can hold any type of string. I can put Sunday like that. Let's say if I have another day, maybe I can put Sunday. Maybe if I say space, then day, I can hold any sort of information inside this day variable, right? It's not safe. It's not type safe. I can store another string, for example, if I say like Monday, I can spell it like this. I can store all sorts of information. So using strings and integer values are not like closed set of values, right? But when we store days of the week, we have set of predefined and closed set of values. Like we have only seven days, right? So in other scenarios, maybe if we have a status, maybe if an object, if we have a shop, for example, the status could be either the shop is open or closed. Or if we have an order could have like maybe order is newly ordered, preparing, shipped, or delivered. Like these are a set of predefined values that we can consider. So for these scenarios, we can use an enumeration or enum. How can we define an enumeration? The same way we define a class, public class, class name. Let's say if I have a class, maybe we have the access modifier if we have it in a different file. Since I'm in same file as the main.java, so I'm not going to define the access modifier, public, private, or protected, whatever. So let's say class, we give the class name. If I want to create a student, I say class is student. Then here I can have the attributes for the student and the behaviors or the methods, the constructor, the toString, everything I can put inside this class definition, right? The same way we can create an enum or enumeration using the enum keyword, enum, then enum name. Let's call it days of the week, for example. This is a type. Inside this type, we can group set of constant values. Also, we can provide some methods, and it can have constructor also. If you're working with integer values, if you want to associate integer values with our constant variables, we can have constructor and methods for that also. Okay, simple. Enum we created same way as we create a class. We know all classes in Java inherits by default from object class, right? A student is an object class. all built-in classes or object, everything inherits from object. The same way, all enums by default inherits from an enum that comes from java.line package. So every enumeration we create by default inherits from this enum, right? If we go here, if I press Control and click here, we can see public abstract class enum, and it has set of like attributes and behaviors that we can inherit from. Let me close these, close this one, maybe close this one, and let's go. So this way we can create an enum. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna create a package here. Let's call it enums. I want to put all my enumerations here. Let's say we have we want to create an enumeration. Let's call it day maybe. Create a Java class. So I don't want to select class. I want to select enum. Okay. Let's call it day. As I said, enums group set of constant values, set of predefined constant values. How we can define a normal constant in programming or Java? So we can use the final keyword, right? Final and, for example, my number, or for example, value equal to 10. So this value doesn't change across our project. It is constant. We are not able to change the value. If I say out value, I can do that, but if I want to change the value somewhere in my program, the compiler doesn't allow me. If I say value equal to 20, or let's say 20, I get an error because value is final, cannot assign a value to a final variable. What is the convention for defining a constant value? The convention is that we always put them in uppercase, right? For example, value. Whenever you define a constant value or variable in your project, the convention is to define them as an uppercase. This value does not change across the project or the program. The same way the convention is when we define an enum and put a set of constant values inside an enum, we are going to write them as uppercase names, okay? So for days, I'm going to copy the names of the days, and instead of writing them and put it here. So the convention is to put them all in uppercase. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we separate each value by a comma, 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 comma. And for the last one, we don't put any comma, okay? This way we can define an enumeration set of closed values. Now a type day, a variable of type day can hold only these 7 values. No value out of these 7 values. So we define a fixed or closed set of constants using enumeration, okay? If I go to main here, how can I use that? I can define a variable of type day the same way we define a variable of type a class. I say day, for example, today equal to day dot. We can access the attributes or the values of the enumeration using the enumeration name dot, for example, Friday. I can print that, print today. Let's see what we get. Friday. If I want to, let's say another value, a variable type day, let's call it Sunday, maybe. I can say day dot, maybe Sunday. Or I can use the value of, where this value of come from. It comes from the enumeration class, the super class, right? We said that all enums extend or inherit from the enum, the built-in enum. So we get this value method and other maybe some methods here. We can pass a string and get a value of type day, right? Let's see if I pass maybe Sunday. Do I get a Sunday here? Let's say South Sunday. Yep, I got that. What else we can do? We can check maybe a day the values of the enumeration. Let's say if I say if or maybe we can use switch day, or maybe today, the variable, and I want to say case. If it is Friday, what I'm gonna do is I will just say case Friday. I just wanna this out, maybe end of the week, right? And I want to break. And case maybe Monday, I will just this out beginning of the week, and let's say case maybe Sunday, and case Saturday I will print weekend, and for everything else the default case I want to print, for example, weekday, right? We can use bunch of if else statement or switch statements with the enum values. I want to put a breakpoint after everything. I want to break here. Let's run the code very quickly and see. It's end of the week, Friday. If I assign it to maybe Thursday, it's a weekday, right? Weekday. If I put it like Saturday, it should be weekend. So this way we can work with the values of the enum, right? Enums can have like integer values. We can assign integer values associated with the. For example, we give Monday as like 1, Tuesday as 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? Let's define another enumeration and let's work with maybe values. Let's have a level enumeration. We can have different type of level, predefined set of level. We can have either low level, medium level, or high level. And we can associate a number, an integer value. For example, low level will have a value of 1. Medium can have a value of 2 maybe, or high can have a value of maybe maybe 3. So we define our constant values. We use uppercase, say low, and we put the value, integer value associated with that, and inside the constructor, okay, inside this parenthesis. Before we do anything, let's define a variable that holds this value. I'm gonna say public. It should be of type integer, and I get maybe priority or the value, whatever you got it. Let's call it value, okay. And we put a public getter for that to get this value, public int get value, and we just wanna return the value, okay. Now we can work with integer values associated with our constants. So law is going to have a value of 1, and we put a comma, and we have another one like maybe medium. And this is for this we should have also a constructor, okay, because we're calling the constructor here, and for the value to set it we have to have a constructor. Let's define a constructor. The constructor is of type level. Let's call it level, and it accepts an integer value, int value, and we say maybe this dot value equal to value. Where is it? This dot value equal to value, okay. Here when we are calling any constant, here we are passing a value to the constructor of that. Like, think of it, each value, each of this constant value as an inner subclasses inside this enumeration, okay. They can have a constructor, and we can call the constructor and pass the value. Now let's have medium. I'm gonna give it a value of 2. And finally, I might have maybe high. Everything should be capital, and I give it a value of 3. And I put a semicolon here, and let's see what is the error is because I put a class here instead of enumeration. Okay, now I have 3 constant values here. I have low, high, medium, and I give associated integer values for each of them. Okay, and um, the variable to store the value, we define the constructor, and we define a method to get the value. Same way with the classes, we can have multiple methods inside an enumeration. Right, now let's see how we can use these values. If I go to inside main, I can comment out these lines of code. Maybe let's say if I have level, let's call it maybe law level, I say level dot law. Okay, if I print that law level, I can do that. Our level can have only low, medium, and high. And if I want to get the value of the law level, I say get law level dot value, maybe, or get value. We have a getter for that. So law level have a value of 1, right? If I want to create maybe more level, I can press Ctrl D to duplicate these lines of code. I can have maybe high level or medium level, law level dot high, and level dot medium, right? I can print everything. Let me press Ctrl D 2 times, enter here, maybe. Let me see. I can print the medium, the high level, the medium level, high level, and I can get their values. High level that get value, and medium level that get value. Let's run it. See, can have their associated integer value and their constant name, right? Medium is of like integer value of 2, high is 3, and low is 1. Why we use that? Because it's going to give us type safety. Imagine we have maybe a class, let's call it class, let's call it shop, for example. If I have here int, maybe a string status of the class, right? So right now this shop and the status of the shop can take any value, but the shop can be either open or closed, right? So for that, it's safe to use an enumeration. Create an enumeration, like call it a status, whatever you want to call it, and put only 2 constant values for that, closed or open. And instead of defining a string for that, we can define an enumeration so that we have a closed set of constant values to accept. Okay, what else we can do with enumeration? I believe we can loop through the values of enumeration, and we print that. Let me see if we can loop, since it is by default inheriting from the enum class. Should we be able to loop through that for day? Let's call it day, and day, the enumeration dot values. See, we get a day array. We can loop through that, and we can just simply print the day. Same way we can loop through the level for example, for level let's call it L in label dot values. We can print L, and let's concatenate it with a string, and its value is, and we can say concatenate L dot get value, right? So let's see, low and its associated value is 1, medium is 2, and high is 3. So this way we can work with the enumeration to get some type safety and group a set of constant value under a single name. Okay, thank you for watching and see you. Bye bye.